people have been scanning the surface of a Scottish lake for centuries in search of the Loch Ness Monster. This weekend, there is a decidedly more ambitious effort underway to see if there's any truth to the legend.
For decades, the Loch Ness Monster has confused the world. Millions have traveled to Scotland hoping to see something rise from the dark water. There were photos, sonar scans, DNA tests, and endless debates. But now, after years of careful research, Dr. Adrian Shine says the mystery is finally solved, and he has proof. No wild guessing, no fairy tales, just real science and clear facts.
When I present the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster, I'm as anxious to show the lessons of what we've actually done.
What did all those sightings really show? And why did the legend refuse to fade for so long? Join us as we uncover the truth behind the Loch Ness Monster mystery once and for all. The monster that refuses to fade. The Loch Ness Monster is one of the most famous mysteries in the world. It has faced investigations, underwater scans, sonar searches, satellite images, and scientific studies. Yet, it refuses to disappear. No body has ever been found. No bones have washed ashore. No fossil has been confirmed. Still, the legend remains alive. Loch Ness is not a small pond hidden in the countryside. It is one of the deepest and largest freshwater lakes in the United Kingdom. It stretches along the Great Glen Fault in the Scottish Highlands. The loch is long, dark, and very deep. In some areas, it reaches depths of more than 700 feet. The water looks almost black because of the peat washed down from the surrounding hills. When the wind blows, waves form quickly. The surface can move in strange ways, even on calm days. This setting alone creates an atmosphere that feels mysterious. Millions of people have traveled to Scotland because of this creature. The local economy benefits greatly from the legend. Hotels, boat tours, souvenir shops, and museums depend on visitors who hope to see something unusual in the water. Postcards show a dark shape rising from the loch. Documentaries promise new evidence. Expedition teams bring sonar equipment and underwater cameras. Each generation believes it might be the one to finally solve the mystery. Yet every search ends the same way, without a confirmed creature. The important truth is that the modern Loch Ness Monster story did not explode in ancient times. It became famous in the year 1933. Before that year, there were scattered stories and old folklore about strange water beings in Scotland. However, those tales were not global news.
In the 1930s, the surgeon's photo was a sensation. Not only did it seem to prove that Nessie existed,
The real turning point came when a new road was built along the side of the loch. For the first time, many drivers had a clear, open view of the water. More eyes were watching. That same year, newspapers began reporting sightings almost weekly. Headlines described a large creature moving through the loch. Witnesses spoke about humps rising from the water. Soon, a new detail appeared in reports: a long neck. This description changed everything. The monster was no longer just a vague shape. It became something that sounded prehistoric. As reports spread, scientists also became involved. This was no longer just folklore told around fires. It was being discussed in serious newspapers. Researchers wanted to know if a large, unknown animal could truly live in the loch. Expeditions were organized. Equipment was lowered into the dark water. The mystery began to shift from myth into scientific debate. One of the most important figures in studying Loch Ness is Adrian Shine. He has spent around 50 years researching the loch and its environment. He founded the Loch Ness Project.
the Loch Ness Project believe that the unique topography of Loch Ness gives rise to some sightings,
and carefully examined the biology and geology of the area. His work focused not on proving a monster exists, but on understanding the natural conditions of the loch itself. He studied fish populations, underwater topography, and water movement. His research suggested that the loch does not contain enough food to support a large hidden animal population. Over decades, he approached the mystery with patience and careful science rather than excitement. This leads to a bold idea. The mystery may already be solved, just not in the way people expect. The answer may not be about discovering a giant reptile. It may be about understanding human perception. Humans do not simply see with their eyes. They interpret. When someone sees a dark shape in rough water, the brain tries to identify it quickly. It compares the image to things it already knows. A floating log can become a moving creature. A wave can look like a hump. A group of swimming deer can appear like something much larger from a distance. The mind fills in missing details. There is also a strong emotional reason why myths survive. People enjoy mystery. A solved puzzle loses some magic. The Loch Ness Monster gives the world something playful yet serious at the same time. It invites curiosity. It allows imagination to live beside science. The idea that something unknown still hides on Earth feels exciting in a world where so much has been mapped and measured. Tourism experts understand this well. The legend brings attention to the highlands. It gives visitors a story to follow. Even those who do not fully believe still enjoy the possibility. The phrase often repeated by researchers captures this feeling clearly. There will be a Loch Ness Monster as long as we want one. But if the legend truly exploded in 1933, something must have triggered it. Something changed public imagination in that year. The water did not suddenly grow deeper. The hills did not suddenly become darker. What exactly did people see in 1933 that made the world believe a monster had risen from Loch Ness? 1933, the year the water came alive. The year 1933 transformed Loch Ness from a quiet highland lake into a global mystery. Before that time, the loch was known mostly to local communities. The change began with something very simple: a road. A new road was constructed along the shoreline of Loch Ness. This road provided clear and steady views of the water. Drivers and passengers could now look directly across wide stretches of the loch. Increased visibility meant increased observation. More people were watching the water than ever before. Soon after the road opened, newspapers began reporting strange sightings. Drivers claimed they saw large movements in the water. Some described dark shapes rolling beneath the surface. Others spoke about multiple humps appearing in a line. Reports spread quickly. Local stories became national headlines.
The team of scientists said tonight they'd made sonar contact with a large unidentified object.
Then a new feature entered the descriptions: a long neck rising from the water. This detail captured the imagination of the public. The creature was no longer just a large, unknown animal. It began to resemble something from prehistoric times. In the year 1934, a photograph appeared that would shape the legend for decades. It became known as the surgeon's photograph.
To that famous surgeon's photograph that is the picture we would all recognize of a Loch Ness Monster.
The image showed what looked like a small head and long neck emerging from calm water.
Best view I ever had was the very first in 1934. I saw the head, the neck, and the huge body, which I'd say was about 30 feet long.
The photo was clear enough to feel convincing, but distant enough to remain mysterious. Newspapers published it widely. For many people, this image became proof. However, many years later, the photograph was exposed as a hoax. It was revealed that the image had been staged using a small toy submarine with a model head attached. The involvement of Marmaduke Weatherall became part of the story behind the deception. He had earlier been embarrassed after claiming to find monster footprints that were later shown to be fake. The staged photograph appears to have been an attempt to regain attention or mock earlier criticism. The model used was small, and the photo was framed in a way that made it appear larger than it truly was. Even after the hoax was revealed, the image had already done its work. It had fixed a specific shape in the public imagination. When people thought of the Loch Ness Monster, they pictured a creature with a long neck rising like a swan from dark water. At this time, scientists and writers began connecting the monster to plesiosaurs. Plesiosaurs were marine reptiles that lived during the age of dinosaurs. Fossils discovered in the early 19th century by Mary Anning had revealed long necks and broad bodies. These fossils captured scientific interest and public fascination. The idea that a prehistoric reptile had survived extinction felt dramatic and thrilling. However, modern paleontology has shown that plesiosaurs likely held their necks straight rather than curved upward like a swan. Their body structure would not support the posture seen in the famous photograph. In addition, plesiosaurs were air-breathing marine reptiles that lived in saltwater oceans, not isolated freshwater lakes formed after the last ice age. Loch Ness itself is only about 10,000 years old, formed when glaciers retreated. Dinosaurs disappeared around 65 million years ago. The time gap makes survival extremely unlikely. The shift from sea serpent stories to prehistoric reptile theory shows how media shapes belief. Early reports sometimes described the creature as a serpent, but once the long neck image spread, the idea of a dinosaur-like animal became dominant. If the most iconic photograph turned out to be fake, a deeper question remains. Many people truly believed they saw something in the water. Their experiences felt real to them. If it was not a prehistoric reptile rising from the depths, then what were those real sightings actually showing? The science of mistakes, boat wakes, birds, and broken perspective. Many classic Loch Ness Monster shapes can be explained by simple science. The most common shape reported is the multi-hump form. People often describe several humps moving in a line across the water. This image feels strange and alive. However, water movement can easily create this pattern without any animal present. One key explanation is the Kelvin wake. When a powered boat moves through water, it produces a V-shaped wave pattern behind it. Inside this pattern, smaller waves form in a repeating line. These waves can look like separate humps, rising one after another. If the boat has already passed and is no longer visible, the wake may still travel across the loch. A person watching from far away might see only the humps and not the boat that created them. Steamships in the early 20th century made this effect even clearer. Unlike sailboats, powered vessels move at steady speeds. Their engines push water in a consistent way. This creates stronger and more regular wake patterns. Sailboats depend on wind, which changes direction and strength. Their wakes are less uniform and less dramatic. As powered boats became more common, sightings of hump-like shapes increased. This change in technology also changed what people thought they were seeing. A similar case happened in the year 1817 in New England, United States. Many people reported seeing a sea serpent moving through the water. Witnesses described a long creature with humps rising in sequence. Later analysis suggested that boat wakes and normal sea animals were likely responsible. This example shows that strange sightings often increase when new types of vessels appear. Perspective also plays a major role. On calm water, it is very hard to judge distance and size. The surface of a loch can look like a flat sheet of dark glass. Without nearby objects, such as trees, docks, or buildings to compare with, the brain struggles to measure scale. A small object close to the viewer can look large and far away. A distant object can seem much bigger than it really is. Water birds are a good example. A group of birds swimming in a line can appear like moving humps. If their heads dip below the surface, only their backs may show. From far away, this can look like one long creature. The lack of clear distance cues makes the illusion stronger. On misty days, this effect becomes even more powerful. Another example involves animals seen from unusual angles. An orca dorsal fin seen head-on can look very different from its side profile. Instead of a tall, curved fin, a viewer might see a narrow, dark shape cutting through the water. Surface swimming animals such as seals or otters can also create brief shapes that resemble something larger. When they dive, they leave smooth, rolling waves behind them. Yet one question still remains. Visual mistakes explain shapes on the surface. But what about the sonar readings? What about the unexplained signals recorded deep beneath the dark water? Deep Scan, the largest hunt in history. In the year 1987, the largest organized search for the Loch Ness Monster took place. It was called Operation Deep Scan. This was not a small local effort.
The biggest was Operation Deep Scan in 1987. It deployed boats across the entire width of the loch.
It was a coordinated scientific expedition involving many boats working together across the loch. A fleet of vessels lined up across the width of Loch Ness. Each boat carried echo-sounding equipment. These devices send sound waves down into the water.
Each boat was fitted with sonar to give them the most comprehensive sonar sweep ever conducted on the loch.
When the sound hits an object, it bounces back. The returning signal shows whether something is below the surface. By arranging boats in a moving line, researchers created what they called a sonar curtain. As the boats slowly traveled along the length of the loch, they scanned large areas in a systematic way. This method allowed scientists to cover more of the loch than ever before. The goal was simple. If a large unknown animal lived in the water, sonar should detect it. During the expedition, about 40 sonar contacts were recorded that could not immediately be identified. At first glance, this sounded exciting. However, further studies showed that most of these contacts were likely caused by ordinary objects. Some were tethered debris. This means items such as logs or other material attached to the bottom by fishing lines or natural fibers. When these objects moved with underwater currents, they produced signals. It is important to understand the limits of technology at that time. There was no global positioning system available to mark exact positions. Boats could not record precise coordinates the way modern devices can. Because of this, it was difficult to return to the exact same spot.
Operation Deep Scan returned to the same spot. Could they at last have found real evidence?
To check whether a contact moved or remained still. Movement is key when proving the presence of an animal. A living creature changes position in clear ways. Without exact location tracking, scientists could not confirm whether the sonar signals showed swimming motion or drifting debris. Another detail is often misunderstood. The contacts were not enormous. They did not show massive shapes filling the screen. Most signals were modest in size. They did not match the idea of a giant prehistoric reptile. Some equipment used during the expedition was lost in the loch and recovered many years later. When these items were examined, they provided no evidence of a hidden monster. They simply showed how challenging underwater research can be in deep, dark water. Out of all the sonar readings, 3 contacts remained less clearly explained. These signals did not fit neatly into known categories. However, unexplained does not mean mysterious creatures. It simply means there was not enough information to classify them with certainty. As technology improved in later years, more scans were performed. Each time, the pattern remained similar. Interesting signals appeared, but none confirmed a giant reptile. The search in 1987 marked a turning point. It moved the mystery firmly into the realm of scientific testing. It showed that serious effort had been made on a large scale. If sonar failed to reveal a monster, perhaps the answer was not about a huge hidden creature at all. Maybe the truth was not something enormous swimming in darkness. Maybe it was something much smaller, something entirely different from what people imagined. The eel theory. Small creature, giant legend. As large reptile ideas became weaker, some researchers turned to a much smaller animal. This idea is known as the eel theory. It does not claim a dinosaur lives in Loch Ness. Instead, it suggests that normal creatures, especially European eels, may explain at least some sightings. The European eel has a very unusual life cycle. It begins life in the Sargasso Sea in the Atlantic Ocean. After hatching, tiny transparent larvae drift across the ocean with currents. When they reach European rivers and lakes, they change form and become young eels. These eels swim upstream and can travel far inland. Loch Ness connects to the sea through the River Ness and other waterways. This means eels can reach the loch naturally. Eels live many years in fresh water. During this time, they grow longer and thicker. When they are mature, they return to the ocean to reproduce. This long and mysterious journey has fascinated scientists for centuries. Because eels can grow to several feet in length, some people wonder whether unusually large individuals might exist in deep water. Modern science tested this idea using environmental DNA studies. Environmental DNA, often shortened to eDNA, is a method that collects genetic material from water samples. All living creatures shed tiny bits of DNA into their surroundings. Skin cells, waste, and mucus leave traces in water. Scientists can collect water samples, filter them, and analyze the genetic material inside. This allows researchers to identify which species are present without seeing them directly. A major DNA survey was conducted in Loch Ness. Researchers collected water samples from many depths and locations. They carefully analyzed the genetic material found in those samples. The results were clear in several important ways. No reptile DNA was detected. This strongly argued against the presence of a hidden plesiosaur or any large, unknown reptile. No sturgeon DNA was found either, which ruled out another suggested large fish species. However, the study did find a significant amount of European eel DNA. This confirmed that eels are common in the loch. The discovery supported the idea that eels are one of the main large fish present in the water. It is important to understand what eel DNA does.
So what we find in our data is actually quite a large number of hits against eel DNA.
And does not prove. Finding eel DNA shows that eels live in Loch Ness.
Could the Loch Ness Monster be a giant eel? It's a surprising result that researchers did not expect.
It does not prove that giant eels exist. Environmental DNA cannot measure the exact size of individual animals. It only reveals species presence. A lake with many small eels could produce strong DNA signals without containing any unusually large ones. Some supporters of the eel theory suggest that rare individuals might grow much larger than average. While eels can reach impressive lengths, there is no verified evidence of eels growing to extreme monster size in Loch Ness. Scientists have not captured or recorded any eel approaching the massive dimensions often described in classic monster reports. Still, the eel theory remains attractive for several reasons. Eels are long and flexible. When swimming near the surface, they can create curved shapes that resemble serpents. If several eels swim in the same direction, their bodies might appear as a series of humps. In dark water, only part of an eel's body may be visible. This could create brief and confusing shapes. The eel theory represents a shift from dramatic prehistoric creatures to realistic freshwater life. It suggests that the mystery may come from misunderstanding known animals rather than discovering unknown ones. Yet this idea does not explain everything. Reports of sea serpents and multi-hump creatures have appeared not only in Loch Ness, but also in oceans and lakes around the world. If neither reptiles nor giant eels fully explain centuries of similar stories, perhaps the real answer is not limited to one lake at all. The leatherback connection. Solving the sea serpent. Sea serpent stories did not begin at Loch Ness. Long before the Scottish mystery became famous, sailors around the world reported seeing long creatures moving through ocean water. These reports often described multiple humps, rolling motion, and dark shapes just below the surface. One possible explanation involves the leatherback sea turtle.
Occurrence to get an intact fossil leatherback shell like this. It is beyond 1 in a million.
The leatherback is the largest living turtle species. It can grow very large and travel across vast ocean distances. Unlike hard-shelled turtles, the leatherback has a flexible, ridged back. When swimming near the surface, the ridges along its shell can appear as separate humps rising in sequence. Leatherbacks feed mainly on jellyfish. They often swim near the surface while searching for food. Their movement is steady and powerful. When they break the surface, only parts of their back may show. From a distance, this can resemble a long creature with multiple sections. The leatherback also creates visible wakes as it moves. Like powered boats, Large swimming animals disturb water in repeating patterns. These ripples can extend behind the animal, adding to the illusion of length. Misidentification is common in marine environments. Orca dorsal fins seen from unusual angles can look smaller or differently shaped than expected. A humpback whale surfacing can produce dramatic splashes and rolling waves.
Humpback whales have been spotted there. It's the first known instance of a whale being found this far inland in Australia.
If only parts of the body are visible between swells, the shape may appear unfamiliar. In the 19th century, steamships began operating in coastal areas such as Gloucester in the United States. Around the same time, mass sightings of sea serpents increased. Steam-powered vessels created strong Kelvin wake patterns. These wakes formed repeating humps behind ships. Observers unfamiliar with this new effect may have interpreted the patterns as living creatures. The combination of real marine animals and new ship technology likely shaped many sea serpent legends. Leatherbacks, whales, seals, and large fish all contributed different pieces to the story. When viewed from a distance, especially in rough water, their shapes could merge into something extraordinary. This idea suggests that the sea serpent myth did not come from one mysterious animal. Instead, it formed from multiple natural causes. The evidence removes the need for a prehistoric reptile or hidden monster. It suggests that the legend grew from overlapping natural events, repeated in newspapers, and strengthened by imagination. Yet, even when science explains these patterns, the Loch Ness Monster still feels real to many people. The image remains powerful.
One of the best ever pictures of the Loch Ness Monster, a creature about 2.5 meters long.
The water remains dark and deep. If the sea serpent has natural origins and the Plesiosaur theory has been eliminated, why does the legend continue to feel so alive? The brain creates the beast. The Loch Ness Monster is not only a story about water and shadows, it is also a story about the human brain. To understand why the legend survives, we must look at psychology and how people think. One important idea comes from a psychologist named Leon Festinger. He developed cognitive dissonance theory. This theory explains what happens when people hold two ideas that do not fit together. When facts challenge a strong belief, the mind feels discomfort. Instead of giving up the belief, many people adjust the explanation. This reduces the mental tension. In the case of Loch Ness, when evidence weakens one theory, a new version often replaces it. The belief stays alive, but the details change. Expectation bias also plays a strong role. When someone expects to see something unusual, the brain becomes alert to certain shapes and movements. If a person stands by the loch already thinking about a monster, the brain searches for patterns that match that idea. A dark wave or floating object can quickly become meaningful. Pareidolia is another important concept. This is the tendency to see patterns where none exist. People see faces in clouds and shapes in rock formations. The brain prefers familiar forms. On dark water, random ripples can become humps. A stick can look like a neck. The brain connects scattered details into one complete creature. Social reinforcement makes the effect stronger. When newspapers, documentaries, and online videos repeat similar images, they create a shared picture in public memory. Each report supports the next. Even weak evidence feels stronger when repeated often. Over time, repetition builds confidence. Myths also evolve across eras. In early northern European stories, sea serpents were common. Later, when dinosaur fossils became famous, the monster began to look like a plesiosaur. When reptile theories weakened, attention shifted to eels. After environmental DNA studies, some people began speaking about unknown genetic material. The shape of the monster changes to match the knowledge of the time. This pattern shows that humans rarely abandon myths completely. Instead, they revise them. Each generation adjusts the legend so it fits current science. And that brings us to the final question. If psychology explains belief and science explains sightings, what would it actually take to prove that a monster truly exists? What proof would it take? The final verdict. After decades of searches, scans, and studies, one question stands at the center of the Loch Ness mystery.
You think the tourism folks at Loch Ness want that solved? I think they would rather let the legend live on.
What would count as real proof? Science has clear standards. First, there would need to be a body. A physical specimen would provide direct evidence. Bones, tissue, or a complete animal would allow experts to examine anatomy and confirm species. Without a body, claims remain uncertain. Second, there would need to be clear and detailed footage. Modern cameras can capture high-resolution images. A short blurry clip is not enough. The footage would need to show shape, size, and movement in a way that experts can analyze carefully. It would need to rule out boats, birds, fish, and debris. Third, evidence must be reproducible. This means different researchers, using different equipment, should be able to detect the same creature under controlled conditions. One isolated sighting does not meet this standard. Consistent, repeated detection is necessary. Over many decades, none of these conditions have been satisfied. Large-scale sonar searches, such as Operation Deep Scan, did not reveal a giant unknown animal. Environmental DNA studies did not find reptile or sturgeon genetic material. Underwater photography has not captured a new species. The absence of proof over such a long period is significant. Loch Ness has been examined with echo sounders, cameras, submersible devices, and laboratory analysis. If a large breeding population of unknown animals lived there, signs would likely appear. This leads to an important shift in thinking. Instead of asking where the monster is hiding, it may be time to ask why belief continues. Acceptance and denial often stand side by side. Some people accept scientific findings and conclude that the monster is unlikely to exist. Others focus on the remaining unknown details. The phrase often repeated by researchers expresses this clearly. There will be a Loch Ness Monster as long as we want one. This does not mean people are foolish. It means mystery has power. The legend connects history, culture, tourism, and imagination. It brings visitors to the highlands. It supports local businesses. It inspires books and films. Science does not destroy wonder. It explains how natural forces create extraordinary appearances. Boat wakes from repeating humps. Birds distort perspective. Eels move through dark water. Sonar reflects from debris. The brain fills gaps. The mystery may not be in the water at all. It may exist in human perception. The loch provides the stage. If a monster truly existed, proof would be direct, measurable, and repeatable. It would withstand expert testing. It would not rely on blurred images or distant shapes. Until such evidence appears, the rational conclusion remains that Loch Ness holds fish, eels, and deep cold water, not a hidden prehistoric reptile. Yet, the emotional question remains open. Even when facts are presented, the image of something moving beneath the surface can still feel real. Dark water invites imagination. Silence invites stories. So now that you have seen the scientific reasoning, the psychological explanations, and the results of careful investigation, the final decision rests with you. Do you believe there is still something unknown beneath those dark waters? Or have we finally solved the mystery for good? If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.